All right, Mike, we're finally here. Match number one of our first 4 qualifying matches.
Yep.
We have Chris Williams, Matt Malmquist, and the Graphics Vision Collision on Big Lake.
Chris Williams, big water angler. Interesting note with Chris that I thought was kind of cool. He used to be the poster child for Evinrude Motors. So when you open up a magazine and you've seen that big full-page ad,
that's the dude.
That was Chris Williams driving the boat with the big Evinrude logo on the back.
That's cool.
So, yeah, it was really neat. Matt Malmquist, young gun, inland angler. Well, I know he fishes big water, but he is very well respected in the inland community, bass fishing.
He's taken a lot of money from me, Mike, over the years. I tell you, when I show up to tournaments and I see Matt Malmquist there, he's the guy I'm shooting after for sure.
He's one of the ones you definitely want a gun for, because he's taking some of my money too. The lake, Big Lake, 215 acres. 1 or 2 holes, 14 to about 16 to 18 foot. Points, some weed flats, and a lot of sand. There was a change in the lake that we were unaware of, but we're going to find out about that a little bit later.
Yeah.
You know, the weather was not that conducive and not that nice to us that day.
You know, Mike, we were coming out of a cold front, winds up to 25 miles an hour.
Horrendous.
It was not conducive.
Overcast.
To beautiful fishing whatsoever. Very overcast that day. The winds, I can't go on enough about the winds. It was windy that day on the water. So, you know, with that said, let's get out to the coin toss. Let's see if our sticks put a plan together and if they're actually going to use the plan they put together.
Failed.
It's heads. Matt, you'll be blasting off first.
Watson's KB Lodge offers one of the best bear hunt adventures available. With the season running from August 15th to the 3rd Saturday of September, you'll hunt over well-established baits in our approximately 61,000-acre bear management area. We utilize platform, ladder, and lock-on tree stems, as well as well-concealed ground blinds. Radio communications with the guide is provided when on stand for safety and to advise upon the harvesting of the hunter's bear. Watson's KB Lodge specializes in archery hunts and prepares all of our baited stands with the bow hunter in mind, which also gives the gun hunter great opportunities for success as well. Hunts are based on the American Plan style of package, which includes the hunter's airfare to the lodge and return to Wawa, Ontario, all your meals, accommodations, boat, motor, and fuel for fishing while you're here, your black bear license and bear tag. Feel free to contact us toll-free or by email for more information.
All right, probably what I'll do is not having any experience on the lake is try to use this wind to the advantage. It's supposed to be blowing close to 30 miles an hour today, so I'll just run some windy points and see what happens. All right, I guess I'm just gonna pull up on this flat. There's a little bit of grass on there and just try to get a few licks. Not gonna do it.
Well, I have never fished this lake before. So the thoughts are I'm just gonna fish the odds. I'm gonna start by fishing this point around. It's a little bit shallow. I looked at the lake map on the GPS this morning. Just looking for a nice close place to start. Something that's should be holding some fish this morning. They should still be on beds, or at least thinking about it. This is a nice shallow little bay right here. Comes out into this point, so hoping that we can find some fish early right here.
A lot of guys, especially on like these local lakes, a lot of guys like to fish shallow, which is fine with me because I prefer fishing deep, but I guess right off the bat here, I'm just gonna run shallow just to try to get a couple keepers in the boat, just with the limited time. But by the end of the day, we'll be out deep.
It's been pretty cool the last couple days, so some pretty severe cold fronts come through. Had a big storm last night It's going to be very windy and overcast today, so had a little swat at it. Got a little one. Little one to start the day. Need something a little bit bigger.
There's a little guy.
So there's one thing I looked for last night on the internet. I went on Google Earth specifically to look for the shorter docks. That tells me that the water has a big drop off here. There should be, fish usually will hold on the docks that are a little bit deeper or deeper at the end. So we'll move right in on these docks and try those as well.
Probably only be doing 15 minutes or so here. Yeah, probably 10 or 15 minutes if I don't really get any activity. I'll be running to a different spot.
That one's not going to make it either, but we got a good start going here. Caught 2 fish in the shallows. That tells me they're up here, so we just got to find the bigger ones.
I'm just throwing a crankbait right now just to cover water. Try to locate the fish first, and then go back and try to catch them later.
There's another one. There's definitely fish up in the shallows. We just got to find the bigger ones. If I have to catch 100 to get 5 good ones, then that's what it will be. But as long as we're catching them, we'll stay on them. I never like to leave biting fish. There's another one. Man, I can't stretch that one out either, I don't think. I knew there was one over there. That feels like a little better fish. Maybe not. Not a keeper yet. They sure do like this Nemesis bullet craw, though. We got to find their daddy.
Yeah, I did switch up. I went to I'm still just using like a vibration bait just to try to get a reaction strike. So I just got a little chatterbait on there. This thing's just got a big old rattle in it. See if we can call one up with that thing.
Got fish on them. Better fish too. Oh my God, this is a pig. This is a pig. Big pig. Oh yeah! Now that's the one we're looking for. Look at that. Tell me you didn't like that bullet craw. Way down in there. That's the one we need to start this battle out with. I'm gonna say close to 3 pounds.
Mike, going into this first match, it looks like the weather's really gonna play a big role in this. You know, Matt took off, went right down the lake. He's camped out on a flat. He's throwing every bait under the sun, from topwater to rattle traps. He's catching some short fish. I think he's going to just spend his time scouring that flat looking for some keepers.
You know, another thing about Matt today, I don't think Matt's feeling well. I'm picking it up in his audio. It sounds like he's maybe got a head cold or some type of cold going. His head does not seem to be in the game. I've seen Matt fish. I've fished with Matt. He just doesn't seem to be.
He was not Matt Malmquist this morning when he showed up to the ramp.
Chris, he took off. He didn't run that far, but he said something that kind of got me a little confused. He's looking for bedding fish or looking for fish on beds. With the water temperature and all the fry we've seen, why is he looking for bedding fish? I don't get it.
I think what he's hoping for right now is that maybe there's still a few straggler females still left up on the beds. He's catching a lot of short bucks right now, which are up there guarding those fry, but I think he's hoping to catch or hoping to find a big female left up on a bed. There's always a few, usually every year you find a few that straggle in after the others have spawned out. There's usually always a couple left.
Okay, that makes more sense to me. I just maybe misunderstood what he said. I couldn't, figure out why he's looking for that. But that thought process, I guess, or what he's doing, he's got one at about 3 pounds in the well already. Now that makes more sense to me. He's going to continue playing the odds, like he said, playing the odds, playing the odds. Now I understand what he's doing and why he's doing it. Matt, I don't know where Matt's at. He's not talking a lot. I don't know where he's at. I just hope he can find some fish and get himself pumped up a little bit more.
Well, you know what? When we get back, let's see if maybe Matt can get that cold turned to warm a little bit and see if playing the odds works out for Chris. But right now, it's time to get raw.
When you're out smallmouth fishing, you're either going to be throwing a tube or drop shotting. Here's a couple of tips that hopefully can help you guys along the way. Currently, the main food source in this lake is 3 to 4 inch shiners, so I've been using the Gulp Alive minnow. Now, when I hook this on my drop shot, rather than skin hook the nose, I actually will put the front of the gulp right along the shaft of the hook and slide it down. The reason why I do that, and I do it about 1/4 of an inch, is I just find that the presentation of the bait itself underwater is a lot better than just skin hooking it. I find when you skin hook it, sometimes it's sitting off to the left or the right and it's not completely straight. Now, these are soft, so they're only gonna last maybe three or 5 fish. But after your first or second fish, this is gonna go flying. And it's just something that happens. So if you can recover the bait itself, and when you go to rehook it, what you can actually do is try and slide the hook about 1 inch of the way back and then slide it up the shaft. And what that's going to actually do is it's going to give the hook more material to grab, and you can reuse that same bait. So you can probably get between 3 and 6 fish per Gulp Alive when you're drop shotting, but that's what I find works for me, and it does kind of save the life of them a little bit longer. The second tip I wanted to show you is with tubes. Now sometimes when you're rigging up a tube, it's actually hard to get the tube jig head inside the tube. So what I like to do is I'll take either Gulp Alive and I'll dip it in here just to get it wet a little bit, or I'll just dunk my tube underwater, and then I'll take the tube jig head, slide it in the tube, and you're all done. Hopefully these tips have been helpful for you. If you have any questions, contact rawfish.com. Thanks for watching.
Prescription drug abuse is a national epidemic. The new in way to obtain drugs is through parents' or grandparents' medicine chests. Removing prescriptions from your cabinet is the best way to keep drugs out of the hands of our young people. We've got to work together to protect our teens, our seniors, and our environment. Clean out your medicine cabinet today. Please participate in Operation Medicine Cabinet and drop off your unwanted or expired prescriptions at one of our law enforcement drop-off sites in Oakland County. We can't ignore this situation anymore.
We're sitting at 6. I just kind of want to push that edge around these this ski track here and see what happens. I bought my first boat, and it was nothing like this one, but when I was 19, so it was about 7 years ago. Actually, they have all different actions. Some are like a little more stiff, so that every one of these rods are actually technique specific. So they definitely have their own purpose. Starting to become convinced they're not out deep.
Yep, bit we clean off. Just tied that one on there. They're getting a little bigger. Nobody home. We had a big thump back here. I'm gonna go back here and see if there's a bed back here. I got another point back there by the dock. We'll go around there and fish that one. I'm basically gonna stay on points and hopefully deeper docks.
Mine's getting a little cold.
Mine as well. Dude, hour 2 is sucking. The wind's picked up.
Bad.
It's blowing like crazy. It's just not a good time to be on the water. You know, Matt has zeroed so far in hour 2. I'm a little concerned about that. We know what a good angler he is. He's just not catching fish. Chris, catching a few shorts, but there's not a whole lot to talk about. You know, I say we go right into hour 3 and start talking about hour 3.
Well, you know these guys are throwing everything under the sun at these fish, and they're not biting. Shorts are biting. Last hour, only a couple. Matt, 0. That's just inconceivable almost. Remember though, when we were at the ramp, Pete and Kenny showed up. First words out of Pete's mouth, "Why are you guys fishing this lake?" Okay, we asked him, why? What do you mean? He filled us in on it. So I put that together with what Matt had said on film earlier. He fished a tournament here 6 or 7 years ago. 23 boats, 1 fish, took everything. With the lack of fish that they're catching today, I asked Pete if he'd come into the studio and talk with us a little bit.
And you know what? I did get a chance to sit down with Pete in studio, and here's what Pete had to say.
We heard that the Lake Association was being paid by a pharmaceutical company to just harvest the weeds. There was a particular weed in that lake that the pharmaceutical company was using in their product. So they were paying the association just to harvest, not to use chemicals. And for some reason this broke down and they killed all the weeds with chemicals. I think it was about 4 or 5 years ago. They completely killed every weed in the lake. And you know what happens then.
After harvesting all those other weeds out of the lake.
Correct, correct. And then they killed every weed in the lake. And you know what happens? Those weeds, because of the chemicals, fall to the bottom, decompose, and become this real heavy silt. Well, what happened was there's a lot of motorboat traffic on that lake, a lot of pleasure boaters, and that stirs that silt up. And it creates a lack of oxygen, it creates a dirty water situation, and makes the fishing extremely tough. So what had happened, we left it alone. We basically left the lake alone as tournament anglers. We decided not to go to the lake for 3 or 4 years. Let it come back, see if it would come back. And when we ran into you that day, we were actually there to see if the lake was coming back.
Right.
So that's why I was surprised to see you guys there, because of that history.
Well, you know, as Robbie Hart would say,
once again, things that could have been brought to my attention yesterday.
I wish I would have known this about the lake, though. I wouldn't.
I don't know why you picked this lake.
Oh, yeah, right. You told me it's a dynamite lake. And I'm like,
it was. Years ago, Mike, it was dynamite. I just don't get it. You know, they're fishing the absolute worst conditions you could fish.
Everything is stacked against them. 25-mile-an-hour wind. Water temp 62. This is, I found fascinating. The water temp 62 to 65 on this lake. Every other lake around here is in the low 70s.
Yeah, this lake's way behind on water temp from all the other lakes. You know, we've got balls of fry everywhere today, as we spoke earlier. A lot of the other lakes in the area, we haven't even seen fry yet. So let's get into hour 3. Hopefully something changes for these guys. Maybe the sun will come out. That would be nice.
Tomorrow.
Okay.
The Rod Glove offers full protection for your rods during transport and while in storage. The high-quality, flexible, and UV-resistant material has a high thread count and protects your rod guides and blanks so you can be confident next time you set the hook. Our tapered tip that comes standard on every Rod Glove offers a solution for easy in and out of your rod locker. Rod gloves are available in a wide array of colors and come in both casting and spinning models. You'll be sure to find a rod glove for every one of your rods, as we offer 3 different lengths for both casting and spinning and cover rods between 5 feet all the way up to 8 feet in length. For more information on casting and spinning lengths or for full color selection, visit therodglove.com.
Alright, we're gonna move again. This lake doesn't have very much deep spots, I'll tell you. This is just a big grass flat, weed flat, so just gonna come across this with a spinner bait and see if we can see anything up here feeding. So then we're gonna go right back to the docks where we started from and work right back through them again, because there was fish on them. And it's a small lake, and that was our best area. And we're about halfway through the day, so we'll just go right back through them again. And sun's been out now for half hour or so, so maybe some more fish moved up on them. And they seem to be the most productive area that we found so far, so we'll just hit it again. But I thought before I pulled up there, this area right here looked pretty intriguing, so I thought we'd try it and see if there's anything up here we can pick up real quick first. Oh yeah, they think it's a big bunch of minnows like that right there. Another little one. We're not having any trouble finding the fish. We're just having trouble finding the bigger fish. Here, fishy, fishy, fishy. Every once in a while you just gotta throw out a fish call, you know? You never know.
I'm just gonna tie on another, actually a spinner bait. Just Just another little something with vibration. A little more weedless though, so I should be able to get it through some of this grass. With this water temp being 65, I've already seen balls of fry showing me that a lot of the bass have spawned, but 65 degrees and a new moon phase coming, there could be a whole nother wave of bass spawning. You know, the thing is with this lake too, this lake doesn't normally take a limit to win. So, you know, realistically, you only need a couple fish to make the difference. So I probably shouldn't have spent as much time offshore that I did trying to find some fish, but I was really surprised when they texted me this lake. I was like, what? You know, he didn't even say. It was just a, you don't find out the lake till 12 hours prior, and the tournaments are horrible. Just a interesting choice. It seems like Chris has been shallow all day. I don't know if that means he's catching them or if that's just what he likes to do, but.
With as slow as hour 3 has been, we find out Tom and Michelle Watson from KB Lodge are in town. So I was able to sit down with Michelle and spend a little time with her and ask her, what should we expect for our contestant that heads to the Great Northern Ontario, to Watson's KB Lodge, once they leave their home to go seek that grand prize? And you know what? I say we take a look at what Michelle had to say before we go to the weigh-in and see how hour 4 turned out.
I think that's a good idea. Let's go talk to Michelle.
Michelle, thanks for coming in. Can you tell us a little bit about what our contestant might expect when he heads to the Great Northern Ontario to Watson's KB Lodge?
Absolutely, Todd. Most of our guests overnight in the town of Wawa. Then we fly into the lodge the following morning. Flights usually start by 7 a.m. You're going to take off of the water in a wonderful float plane. And if you've never experienced a float plane trip, it's one of the most awe-inspiring things you'll actually have to remember about your trip. You land after about 30 minutes. It's 60 miles by air on Big Kebinakogami Lake. It's a 26-mile-long lake with almost 31,000 acres of beautiful, pristine Northern Ontario fishing.
It's a huge body of water. I do know that.
Yeah. Once you land at the lodge, the experience just continues. You're going to be met at the dock by Tom and I, our great dockmen and staff helpers, and our intrepid dogs, Riser and Jasper, who are as much a part of this lodge and their experience as we are. Once we get you registered and settled in, take you to your cabins, and our cabins consist of our smallest cabin that'll sleep as little as 1 person to our largest that'll sleep as many as 12. They're comfortably set up. You're going to feel that you can have all the comforts of home while you're roughing it in comfort with us at Watson's KB Lodge. And then let the fishing begin.
How is the food at KB Lodge?
Oh, our food is phenomenal. We have Craig, our head chef, who's been with us for 12 years, who really takes a lot of pride in allowing his expertise to shine in our kitchen and our dining room.
Craigie's kind of a monument there, as I said once before to you. The food is, I mean, it's unbelievable. You definitely don't want to eat too much before coming to Watson's KB Lodge because you will leave stuff. There's no doubt about it.
Breakfast and dinner are served in the dining room, but for shore lunch, sometimes the best part of your whole experience is the fact that we're going to give you a kit that has everything you need in it other than the fresh fish to go out and catch that fresh fish and prepare your own fabulous fresh fish shore lunch somewhere on one of the 20 sites we maintain on the lake, or come back to the main lodge itself where we have 5 sites set up for our guests' use as well.
It's a really nice experience to be able to go out and do some catching, as I call it. Stop at a shore lunch spot and have a shore lunch. And then there's even times, isn't there, where Tom, your husband, does a shore lunch for all your guests back at the lodge. So it makes a great experience, absolutely.
Oh, absolutely. And when Tom and I are fortunate enough that we actually get to do a shore lunch for the guests, or good friends like yourself that do come up, it really makes our day. It helps us remember why we're there and how much we all get to enjoy living there for the 6 months that we're there and getting to share it with all the guests that come our way.
And we end our day at Watson's KB Lodge with a relaxing evening, a wonderful meal, and then where do we go from there?
Well, a lot of the guests just like to relax in the evening. Some of them will go back out fishing for the night. Some of them just like to build a campfire. And then there's all those ones that just love to go fish down on the airplane dock, on and around the rocks, continuing to listen to Craig's great stories that he's loving to share with everyone when they come to see us, and catch and release and just enjoy the evening, listening maybe to the wolves start howling. After dark, once sunset's gone down, then we've got the great northern lights coming usually in the early part of August.
And it's a beautiful thing. Michelle, I want to thank you so much for coming in. Tell us a little bit about this. Our competitor is surely going to enjoy the trip, and I cannot wait to see how the trip goes for our competitor. I know it'll be awesome. Let's dump our fish.
All right, do you want to dump them in?
Gentlemen.
Put that right there. Need a drum roll or something.
I can give you a drum roll. I don't know about the singing part now.
I don't know, I heard you could sing and dance.
Mr. Williams, you have 2.2 pounds with one fish. You hooked up. Matt, looks like you got a shout out. Well, Chris, it looks like you pulled it off with one fish. Incredible, incredible tough day on that body of water. First of all, I want to apologize. That was my choice to pick Big Lake. Looking back, I kind of wish that I didn't, but that's part of the game with fishing. You did show up, you did hook up, and that's part of this game. You know, you went through the day, you struggled, you caught a lot of fish, but you struggled catching big fish. It was a tough body of water. We heard a lot of stories about that body of water afterwards. Tell me about your day.
It was tough, but it's like any other competition. You have to go and fish it. You can't just go somewhere else. So, but it was tough. There was a real lack of weeds there, lack of structure. So to start out the day, I looked at the map, kind of figured out where I was going to start at. And then once I got out there and realized there was a lack of weeds, lack of structure, I decided to just kind of go for the odds. So I love to fish docks, so I just started fishing in on some of the docks to try and figure out which docks to be the best ones to go to. And luckily enough, I stumbled into a little area, had a little weed patch off the docks a little bit. I caught a few fish there, caught a few fish off the docks, and that just kind of started the day. So,
you know, you used the phrase luck. A lot of people ask me, you know, Todd, I think fishing's a lot of luck. But I tell you, you've been playing this game for a long time. I've known you for years and years and years as being a great angler. I don't think luck so much played a role in keeping you where you were at. What did keep you there?
Well, it was just lucky that I had found the one little patch of weeds, because not knowing the lake and never being there before, I didn't know where the weed patches were. That's where the luck part came in. As far as that, once I started to catch the fish, they would change. As the sun would come out, they'd tuck up underneath the docks, get up underneath the structure. When the sun would go back under the clouds, they'd kind of scurry back out to the weed bed, and they would stop on the docks. So I had to kind of keep trying to figure out, you know, go moving back and forth between the weed bed and the docks. But I was catching a lot of fish, short fish, but almost every other cast I was catching a fish. And the old saying is, you know, you just don't leave fish to go find fish. As long as they're biting, you know, I stay there. And that's kind of what kept me there.
Well, you caught a lot of fish that day. Tell me about the baits that you were using. I'd love to see what bait you were throwing that day.
Well, I started out with a spinnerbait, just, you know, trying to find some fish, just a seek and destroy bait, you know. Wasn't really doing a whole lot with that. When I got up to the docks, I started throwing the Nemesis craw, the bullet craw, and these are really awesome on the dock. I like throwing these on just a little, real small, lightweight lead head, and they seem to work really well. And that's what I ended up catching the one big one on.
And you were using spinning equipment as
right,
well.
Just lightweight, 8-pound test.
Okay.
Spinning rod, 6.5-foot rod, something I can pitch under the docks really well. So that seemed to work out really well. And I was using this on the weed beds and on the docks, both. So.
Okay, and when you were fishing the weed beds, you were still throwing it on the lead head?
Yeah.
Okay.
It seemed to be the bait that they were liking. So I was throwing it right on the edge of the weeds. And it seemed to be working really well. So
you don't change something that's not broken, right?
Exactly, yeah. If they're biting on it, I was staying with, like I said, almost every other cast I was catching a fish. Small, but I was hoping that I'd start weeding through enough of those small aggressive fish to try and get to some of the bigger fish. Never really happened, but that was a theory.
Yeah, we were watching you from the camera boat, and I tell you, any minute I kept thinking, he's gonna catch a giant, he's gonna catch a giant. That never happened, but you know, that one fish that did bring you through on this tournament, to you's got to be a giant. You're moving on to our next round.
Right.
You did a great job. The weather was not conducive to wonderful fishing. It was a tough, tough day. You pulled it out. You're moving on to our next round. And I tell you, our next match, we have Brian McCarter and Mark Getch going to battle it out on Mesa Day Lake in the Green Oak Golf Carts Big Bass Smackdown. Chris, I want to thank you for coming in with us today. And remember, the name of the game is
hook up or shut up.